All right, everybody, welcome out to this special edition of the Logger Room Sports Podcast. It's the Mets corner of the Logger Room. Jersey Johnny coming at you with me, as always, on these Mets portions of the podcast is RadioPete. Say hello, RadioPete.
Hello, RadioPete.
How the hell are you, RadioPete?
I'm good. You got all dressed up. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Had to do it for the occasion, you know.
I have no idea where my Mets hat is.
I'd come over and help you look for it, but
I probably threw it somewhere in disgust.
There you go.
Sometime last year.
There you go.
And I have no idea where it is. But that's all right. I'll find it. Got to find it now. Got to get back in the bandwagon.
Exactly. You got to find it now, and you have to go out and get a Lindor jersey too, huh?
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, yeah. That'll have to happen. So, what were your immediate thoughts when you first heard this?
Well, I don't want to say that I'm suspicious of Steve Cohen, but I don't know what he's doing. In the sense that when the sale of the team was finalized, and we all kind of went, "Oh, this is great, Steve Cohen. He's got $1 billion, and he's going to spend a lot of money." And then he kind of came out and he said, "Hey, let's cool your jets a little bit. We're going to do this, intelligently."
Right, the right
and
way.
We all went, "Yeah, that makes sense. You don't need a $300 million payroll." Mm-hmm. And we kind of look. We all, amateurs and pros alike, speculated about who he was going to go for, and who we really wanted, who was more important, who was more worth it than others. Right. We talked about pitching. We talked about Springer. Lindor seemed kind of on the outside. Certainly wasn't one of the biggest positions that they needed to fill. And yet here we are,
right?
Getting some pitching help, which is good.
Sure.
Now, I don't know how that bodes for Trevor Bauer. And you've got a tidbit about him, which you'll reveal in a second. But Lindor is Met now. And so even though that wasn't one of their biggest needs, they filled that need with obviously a pretty big-time upgrade from, again, with a young player. This isn't a 31-year-old guy. He's 26 or 27 years old, and he's replacing basically a couple of 24 and 25, I think, Rosario and
they're not that much younger.
Jimenez are, So or he's not that much older than they are. So maybe Cohen is going to spend a little bit more money than we thought. Maybe we got
it's back to what we originally thought, basically.
Yeah, maybe he is going to go for some of these big names, and again, maybe Bauer isn't one of them. We have
maybe he is.
Maybe he is, but certainly you think Springer is. And I guess I don't know the details, but you told me that Trevor Bauer had something to say about this recently.
Right.
Which was what? He said he put out a video or something.
He put out a video. Yeah, he did. Just today, like after the trade, he put out a video. It was for his, he's a big social media guy. He's got his own podcast. He's got this, he's got that. And he put it out basically. And go watch it too. I think it was posted. Somebody posted it on True New York Mets Fans, the group. Somebody a little earlier today. He did it maybe about 2-3 hours ago, maybe. And he basically saying, giving his blessing to this trade, thinking it was a powerhouse, big, huge blockbuster trade. That the Mets now have his words, the best shortstop in baseball right now, in his estimation, and he gave an interesting story, about Francisco Lindor, and he talked about Carlos Carrasco too, and basically, he was wearing a Mets cap the whole time he was doing the podcast too. So,
but that doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't mean anything. But for him, it means something though. So I mean, you really get the idea that he wants to be here. And he wants to come to Queens. And all the footsie that they've been playing with him. It wouldn't surprise me. But I think the bigger piece, not to get away from the subject at hand, but the bigger piece would be getting Springer first. That's still a need. Center field is still a need.
Yeah.
Shortstop, like you said, was not a need. Is Lindor better than Jimenez or Rosario? Of course. He's
Yes.
better than Jimenez and Rosario together. If they could both stand at shortstop together at the same time and both be at home plate at the same time, Lindor's better.
And they still wouldn't hit as well.
And they still wouldn't hit as well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article about this back in early November when SNY first broke the idea of that trade and not liking it. But if you go back and read it, and somebody actually pointed out today, they went back to my post on True York Mets fans group. They went back to my post of that article from the Log Room website saying this didn't age well, did it? And I agree.
Listen, I think it was. I think it was not reasonable or not particularly realistic to think that Cohen was going to come in and throw money around like a drunken sailor.
Right.
And he basically said as much. And I don't think that this move means that he has done that or is going to do that. But maybe he is going to spend a little bit more, and maybe he's going to, let's win this thing this year.
He wants to win. He wants to win every year.
Yeah.
And who doesn't really? But the fact of the matter is too that they are somewhere in. I heard this before, so forgive me with the numbers and exactness of it or whatever. But I heard that they're somewhere around $180 million right now, and that luxury tax kicks in at $210 million. So they still got $30 million a year to play with. So you could certainly fit Springer in that. I think,
right.
But who knows? We'll see.
If you're willing to go slightly over, then probably Bauer.
Listen,
if Springer is proving to be more difficult to get, and it may come down to, and look, all of these guys should be exploring all of their options.
Right.
And we know that, more often than not, way, way more often than not, it's the money that talks, and that's where they're going to go.
Right. Right.
And there are certain cases where they take, $1 million less, maybe, to
be
go
on a certain team.
Right. To be on a certain team. But generally speaking, so maybe there's a feeling that Springer, despite, we don't know how much he wants to come to the Mets. It certainly doesn't seem like he's as eager as Bauer. So maybe he's
we don't publicly we don't know that.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. He didn't put out a video today wearing a Mets cap or ever wearing a Mets cap.
Ever wearing a Mets cap.
But if he is proving a little bit more difficult to tether, or the feeling is, maybe he really is going to want a little bit more than we need, Lindor is going to replace some of that offense.
Sure.
And then you can go out and get yourself a top-notch
defensive center
fielder. Light hitting defense, with some speed, defensive center fielder, and you can at least replace some of the offense that Springer would bring if that's the case. So maybe that was part of the reason for this move.
It could be. It could very well be. The other thing I think is that there's been a lot of back and forth about it in a lot of the blogs and a lot of the groups, and everybody and their mother's been talking today. Obviously, we're on special for this. So,
right.
But they've been going back and forth with, Springer's out now. They're spending the money on Lindor. They're going to want to re-sign him. They got Conforto that they got to deal with this year too. They're not going to spend the money on Springer too. But yet on the flip side of that, the Mets now are the top landing place for Springer, or should be the top landing place for Springer, in his desire to go somewhere because of all of this, because of the trade today, because of Steve Cohen, so forth and so on. So, I honestly don't think, and we've said this forever, and we could all be wrong. I don't think we are based on today, but I don't think money is really going to be an issue with any of these guys for Uncle Steve. So we'll see how it shakes out. The other thing I just wanted to say too was that my article, if anybody that did see it, and Pete, I know you read it, it wasn't saying that I don't think Lindor should come to the Mets. Please, my whole thing was, if he's they need to re-sign him, and they haven't done that yet. Right. I have a strong feeling that even though they're not letting on, that subject had been broached. just guessing.
It would be criminal on the part of both parties involved if that was not a subject that was broached prior to the trade being finalized.
Right. So
certainly, at least on the Mets side.
Right, exactly. So between that and also the fact that what was proposed, if you look back at what I'd written, was what was proposed was Jimenez, J.D. Davis, and Mauricio. Ronnie Mauricio is the Mets' top prospect, or one of the. It's in the top two. I think he's the top prospect. And J.D. Davis is still a clutch hitter. He's going to wind up being a bench guy at this point, but he's still a clutch hitter. And Jimenez, obviously, you don't need Jimenez if you got Lindor, right? You don't need Jimenez or Rosario for that matter. So that out the window, they traded Jimenez. Here, I'll throw up the graphic here. They traded Jimenez, Rosario, Isaiah Green, and Josh Wolf. Isaiah Green is an outfielder, and Josh Wolf was a pitching prospect. But they were the number 9 and 10 prospects for the Mets. Yeah. So if you're getting back Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco with you're giving up Jimenez and Rosario, so that's the one, that's your shortstop, so they're out, and your 9th and your 10th prospect and cash considerations, obviously some salary alleviation for the Indians, but excuse me, the Cleveland baseball team, is that what they're calling it now?
The Native Americans,
right?
And look, as far as Jimenez and Rosario go, I like Ahmed Rosario. I think Jimenez was probably the eventual shortstop.
Sure.
Rosario's just not that good a hitter, and he's pretty good defensively, but.
Yeah, I mean, Jimenez was showing signs of becoming a better shortstop all around, hitting and fielding.
He seemed to me like the guy who was on the way up. So probably one of those guys was going to go anyway.
Right.
And so unless you were going to move one of them to second base or third base or something like that, then why not move both of them? Now, I don't know who plays shortstop when Lindor has a day off.
Well, I mean, it would probably be Guillorme, right?
I would guess so.
You throw Guillorme out there. So.
Yeah. So, it's, again, like both of those guys, certainly you love young players, and Jimenez certainly, like I said, seemed like the guy who was more on the come, as they say.
Right.
But when you're going to bring in a guy who hits 30-something home runs every year to replace, and those two are not playing on the same day, generally speaking, unless there's a lot of injuries or whatever, then you kind of do that. I mean, look, I think Bauer was right. This is probably the best shortstop in the game right now.
Absolutely.
And now he's a Met, and he's going to make your team better. Yeah, he is. He is. I like Jimenez a lot.
Jimenez is a smart player, and then John Donovan posted this. Jimenez is a smart player, and then he posted Rosario is not.
Yeah. Well, look, if you look at that, what we originally thought with J.D. Davis and the two shortstops, you could make an argument for Jimenez being the guy that you might want to keep,
right?
As well as Davis. I think Davis more so, but you could make an argument that Jimenez had a better upside, and maybe it's a guy that you.
Lindor out the window. If I had to choose between Jimenez, Rosario, and J.D. Davis, it would be Jimenez. So, but that's moot now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, in that sense, you're and Lindor plays pretty much every day, I think. So.
Yeah, you're going to get 150, 160 games out of Lindor. So Guillorme's going to have to, shuffle out there, a handful of times throughout the season, depending on when the season does start too.
Yeah.
We might not have 162 this year. So, we'll see what happens. My point of the whole thing is it's got my blessing. Not that it needed it.
I'm sure.
I'm sure Steve Cohen's much happier now that I gave my blessing.
I imagine he's listening.
Absolutely.
He's like, phew, thank God, I don't want Jersey Johnny mad at me.
But I'm happy with the trade the way it panned out. I was just giving up the top prospect, J.D. Davis and Jimenez. That's where I'm.
Well, again,
that's where I was drawing. That's where I was a little,
not one of your top needs,
right? And it was, the shortstop was probably the last need, and which we call it that, and first base, right? But which we call it, I'm my biggest issue was even more so than that, was the issue that they still have, right? Was the re-signing him. Yeah. They don't re-sign him. They only have him for a year. Carlos Carrasco they have for 2 years and an option for a third. So they got 2 or 3 years with him on the mound.
Which is about all you're going to want him because he's 33, I believe.
And is he? Is he not?
Yeah,
I think
younger
so.
Than that.
Yeah. But
let me see. I got his stats
check
here.
On that. So.
Let me see.
While you check, we got another.
33 according to Major League Baseball.
33 according to Major League Baseball.
And look, he's coming off a good season after I think he had surgery or something. Had a pretty mediocre 2019. 6-7 with a 5.29 ERA. But last year, again, 3-4, 291 in 12 starts, 82 strikeouts in 68 innings.
Yeah,
and he's more in line with his general numbers. So
his ERA last year was 2.9 was it 2.9 something, 2.8 something?
2.91. Yeah,
2.91. Yeah.
So batting average against was 221. His whip was 1.2, which is a little bit higher than you'd like. But again, 82 strikeouts in 68 innings. So he's a quality pitcher, and you're going to probably get at least a couple of good years out of him, and then you're going to let him go because, like I said, he's going to be 35 in 3 years.
Right.
As far as Lindor goes, does he want to just come here for 1 year? Maybe
I don't think so.
He might, but if he's coming here, and if the Mets are going to win, then why wouldn't you want to?
Why wouldn't you want to stick around?
I wouldn't think you would come to the Mets if you're the best shortstop in baseball. The Mets are not the place where you go, well, that's definitely the place to go to win this year.
Right.
And then I'll go someplace else and win. No. You're thinking it's a possibility, but I would tend to think he would be thinking about future years as well.
Sure.
And what Steve Cohen is going to hopefully continue to build. Although if he keeps spending money, then they could be the odds-on favorite. You bring in Bauer and Springer.
You bring in Bauer, Springer, and Brett Hand, and a couple of the bullpen pieces. And
the Dodgers can kiss our asses if that happens.
Exactly. So, hey, you know what? We'll see how it all shakes out. Obviously we will. But the bottom line is they have to re-sign him.
They do.
And I think there's probably a pretty damn good chance that they're going to be able to do that. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But as far as the other pieces, they really, I think that they have been focusing on Springer and just not letting their hand down. And he's obviously a less public guy than Trevor Bauer is.
Right.
So we'll see how that shakes out. And Sandy Alderson did say today that they're going to let, specifically referring to other pieces and specifically Springer, he's going to let the, I forget the exact words he used, but he's going to let the fallout from this calm down first and then move forward with other announcements and stuff like that. So, you know what? But before the weekend's up, we may have Springer on the team. Who the hell knows?
Yeah. And look, if they bring Springer and Bauer in, right, it's going to be a big payroll.
Sure.
And maybe they want Lindor for a year and win a championship and go, well, we can't keep all three.
Right.
But we'd rather have the pitcher and we'd rather have the
center fielder.
Or maybe 2 out of 3. Maybe, obviously they're going to bring Springer in, and that's going to be a long-term contract. So maybe that's their plan. He's going to help us this year. We got him for a couple of guys a couple of light-hitting shortstops, and we'll deal with the fallout after a year. I wouldn't think that would be the plan.
I don't think that'll be it.
But if they don't re-sign him and it doesn't get done, then you kind of look through what happens this year. And again, we don't know when the fans exactly are coming back. We got to get the vaccine has to get out, and we have to kind of get clearance for that. And that's obviously going to take some time.
Sure.
Late in the season, if at all this season, are there going to be anything other than limited fans let back into the stands?
Sure.
So maybe, we kind of say, well, we can't really keep all three, but we can have all three for a year and maybe win a championship. I don't think that's the plan, but it's a possibility.
Sure. It's one of the possibilities by all means. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think I would hope that they've broached that topic already. But
I can't imagine that they haven't. It doesn't because, if that was the plan, they would have to tell Lindor and his people.
Right.
And why would you want to do that?
Why would he want to do that?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. He wants he.
You don't want to.
He wants to be here.
You don't want to come here and then not re-sign.
Right.
Because anything can happen.
Sure.
That can affect your value. You can get injured, or you can have a crappy season, and he's red hot right now. So I can't imagine he's not going to take advantage of that.
Right. Yeah. Here's another couple comments here on the True New York Mets fans group. The Mets just became more attractive to Springer. So,
yeah, they became more attractive to anybody they want.
Yeah, and obviously they become more attractive to Trevor Bauer too. So
if that's possible,
if it's even possible.
I don't know what the holdup is there. So, give give me the keys to the van. I'll go pick him up.
I'll go pay. We'll take a ride out.
You and I, we could stop at Shea. We'll pick up the van and we'll go get Trevor Bauer.
Yeah. John Donovan says if it comes down to Toronto versus Mets for Springer, we'll get him. That's what he said. So
Toronto's making a play. They obviously want to do some damage, but I can't. I don't see them as an attractive a landing place for Springer. Yeah,
and let's be realistic. Like I said, it's somewhere around 180 million right now. The luxury tax kicks in at 210. It's not a hard cap. Uncle Steve can spend a couple of bucks in the luxury tax if he wants to go over. If he's going up to 210, if he gets to 220 and he's got to shell out a couple of bucks because he got to 220, but he has the players that he wants. I'm not.
And if you win,
right?
Especially if it's the Mets and you win, there's gonna be other sources of revenue that are gonna come in.
Sure, absolutely. There's going to be plenty of those. And look at it this way right now. There's going to be a bunch of people going out and buying Lindor jerseys, right?
Exactly. How much merchandise? Yeah.
Folks, well, you should just listening to this, I'm raising my hand.
I want to see you in a Steve Cohen jersey.
Please. If there's a Steve Cohen jersey, I'll buy it tomorrow. Are you kidding me? Uncle Steve's face right over the E.
Yeah, I would. That would be perfect. A little Steve right where the E is. And then I guess he would be number a million.
Yeah, right. Well, he can be number one now, right? They traded Rosario, so he can be number one.
True. He can take number one.
John
sit in his owner's box with a jersey on. That would be
great. Love it.
It would be great.
That's the reason we'll say that's the reason they included Rosario in the trade, so he can wear number one.
It's like you got to get Rosario out of here. I can't take his number if he's still here. That just wouldn't be right. But if he's gone,
exactly. John Donovan said he made $1.6 billion last year. I can only assume he's referring to Steve Cohen and not Francisco Lindor or Trevor Bauer or George Springer
Ahmed
Rosario. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a lot of money that he made that last year. So yeah, he can.
And he said he's a businessman. He's going to do things.
He's going to do things the right way,
do things intelligently, right?
He's going to
be smart about it. But being smart about it could mean spending a little bit extra to win.
Right. He's going to intelligently follow his heart.
There you go.
How's that?
That's way more than I ever do.
And John said, yes, Cohen. So there you go. It's way more than you ever do.
Yeah.
Intelligently follow your heart.
Yeah, it's the intelligently part.
Yeah, who intelligently ever follows?
Yeah, that's what gets in the way.
Exactly. So
that's what's kept me from being Steve Cohen all these years.
All right. So we both agree. Good move. We're happy. Mets world is elated today. Blockbuster trade, biggest move of the offseason so far.
Yeah, and this might start the avalanche. Look, you've hugely upgraded your offense.
Right.
You haven't necessarily filled a need, but you brought in one of the best players in baseball, maybe the best at his position.
Sure.
He's young. Assumedly, he's going to re-sign, so he's going to be around for a while. And yeah, it's going to cost you money, but that's the name of the game.
Right.
And it shows that you are willing to do things that need to be done to put a winning product on the field, and you're going to be rewarded for it.
There you go. That's all we can hope for. Keep those fingers crossed, folks. We will keep coming back at you anytime the Mets in the offseason make any moves such as this, and other teams too. We'll get Harry on if the Yankees do any interesting.
When they finally sign LeMahieu.
Yeah. So. But I got, as an aside, I got a couple of texts and emails from staunch Yankee fans today saying, congratulations, I wanted him, you guys got him, screw you. In a nutshell. They left out the screw you part, but that was basically what they were saying.
Yeah, well, listen, this would have been, in years past, in the George Steinbrenner years, this would have been
This would have been a Yankee thing.
He would have had all three of those guys signed already.
Right. Yeah, they would have been.
And the payroll would have been.
It would have been done. It would have been done before Thanksgiving, and they would have been
$250 million, and he wouldn't have cared because they were going to win, and the seats were going to be absolutely filled every day, and
sure,
they were going to sell thousands and thousands of jerseys.
Sure.
So,
all right. Well, we're all happy. It's a good.
It's a great day to be a Met fan.
Thank you, Uncle Steve.
Uncle Steve.
It's a great day to be a Met fan. Let's have a bunch more of these, many more of these in many of the years to come. So, congratulations to Mets Nation. That was a wonderful thing today, and we will definitely talk to you all soon. Have a great weekend, folks. Take care.
Peace.